They say the more things change, the more they stay the same. In this case, the more my box fills with units from new and old celebrations, the more obvious it becomes that I'm still taking on the same few events that Global's had access to for over a month now. For more than 300 years, we've been left to wonder if a tree falling alone in a forest is actually there. Well, Dokkan viewer, I ask you this. If an event isn't worth running more than once for completion, is it actually content? This seems to come up much more often in Dokkan than any other gacha I've played, including the one I played for years, Epic 7. Today, we discuss a common question in detail, following a brief back and forth between Air Dokkan and the Truth. Air says, last WWC, there was more to do, right? To which Truth answers, no, there was less, but the fights were better. So now I ask again, if an event isn't worth running, is it actually content? And I leave that question with you to answer down below because I've got my own thoughts on this. For me, this worldwide download celebration has been the time in which I've gone back and completed a bunch of missions for stones that I hadn't. Not because I didn't want to, but my account is only about a year and a half old, so I just didn't have access at the time. I was stockpiling for the banners, Global has come out with an absolute slog of banners that's been brutal to our stones, and I figured it was the time to address some of those lingering missions so I'd be ready for summoning. So, cool. Only one thing, the majority of my time during this massive celebration has been doing years old content, as in, I haven't been playing with the new units even though I pulled them. I haven't been needing to go into the fights we've gotten multiple times because they aren't stronger than even the old content here on Global that we just got from the 9th Annie, the one that JP got 8 months ago. And I haven't been experimenting with team building because the laundry list of EZAs we get during this major celebration is looking more like a sticky note with the words Team Turles and Tech Broly on it. And you might say, well, that's not fair because JP obviously has the new fights, so it's just a oops Global whoopsie. But if the 9th anniversary on Global is the best celebration that's ever existed because of the extra things that got put into it, then the worldwide download celebration does suffer this year from us not having access to fights that we need. And so we arrive at another point of engagement. We all love getting free stones, but not allocating them to content we can engage in is worse from an investment standpoint. Truth says, I just don't see how it matters that much when this celebration is giving out more than last year's. And Zeb responds, it matters. They want to be rewarded for completing the mission rather than getting empty Baba points. We come to a crossroads, and it's fine that Truth maybe doesn't approach this concept from an outsider's perspective because he is who he is. Truth, you are not only a content creator who is being paid so much that it reimburses your whaling, but a whale who doesn't need the reward to begin with, and that's fine. When you take on these challenges and upload them on your channel, it's literal content for your job. It's something that is palpably worth doing because you get both an in-game and out-of-game reward. We all love Dokkan, but I'm sure a lot of us would be more excited over content that's not really engaging if it also meant we got to hit that upload button and pay out over it. We're simply operating on two other planes of existence. And this goes back to something I said before, which is that it's funny that the future Red Zone was judged so harshly because people were riled up about it. They were excitable, they were talking, and they were using the event as a benchmark and a litmus test. It was doing what it set out to do, which is keep players playing on the app. So, maybe you want to make the argument that it's fine because other games have content you're not meant to run multiple times. Sure. But Dokkan is not structured like those games. I've made several videos discussing this trapdoor of Dokkans, but if hard fights aren't coming out and you aren't making money by running teams against these fights for content, then there's literally nothing to do on the app but link level. It is worth more of your time right now, during the biggest celebration of the third quarter, to be link leveling than engaging with the 8 or so stages that have released so far. Think about that. I ask again, if a content week drops and no one's there to play it, is it actually content? This goes into the question of would you rather be wrong but technically right, or right? You see, the Dokkan Battle community does this conversational thing where they love to point out when they're technically right, even if the point is only self-serving. By all accounts, yes, we're getting more content. Yes, we're getting more stones. But using that sort of language to hide the fact that the majority of us are just waiting for the big part 3 fight is disingenuous. I reiterate, I'm the type of person who has Dokkan open all of the time when there are major events happening. Even before the GGT Trio released this celebration, I uploaded a video of myself using the AGL Goku and Vegeta from the Cooler movie because I think their animations are bomb. I don't care if I lose, even if it means I'm running an event tens of times just trying to get that one run where they perform. I have fun doing it. But there really is this sickness with the Dokkan community that's just kind of a problem with the internet in general right now, where people don't care if they do the right thing. They just care that they're right, that what they're saying is right, that they can say, I was right about this. And I'm sorry if this is like a big contentious point, but I don't give a fuck if you're right. I want something to do in this game that I'm playing. And that's a big thing for people who haven't played other gachas, so maybe they don't understand how these content cycles work for them, or the lack of gear, meaning that there's nothing really to grind in Dokkan, so there's nothing repeatable in Dokkan. And if they're not going to release content that reflects that, it is a big problem. And you shouldn't get into multiple gacha unless you have great self-control, because these are predatory, terrible games at the end of the day. But games like E7 that manage to genuinely be amazing mechanically and also release consistent, interesting content, it shines a light on Dokkan just being a Dragon Ball merchant. And I guess I just resent the fact that people, especially when it comes to Dragon Ball, are just like, oh, of course it is, we want slop. It's the same people who are like, oh, yo, I'm pre-ordering Sparking Zero, even though they don't release like any information as to whether this game is going to be playable online to any degree. And I mean playable online as in the online is going to work, which means a bunch of people are going to pay $70 to fuck around with a game and then eventually get bored of it. But that's with some love, because I don't want people to think that I don't enjoy the game when I genuinely do. The units are all phenomenal this year. Has there ever been a roster of 4 characters other than maybe the anniversary from literally this year that have all overperformed like this? It makes me excited for when they do finally hit the nail on the head and drop something for these characters to interface with. And yeah, I'm ready for every single boss they drop to be Goku and Frieza, to be honest. I'm over playing with the kitty gloves on. We need to stop acting like the power creep is so scary and so bad for the game, and then being stuck for weeks at a time with nothing to do because they won't challenge us. For now, I'm giving this celebration a 6.5 out of 10. That is much closer to a 7 than it is a 5. And yeah, I think it would be higher if they just released actual content. I expect that when part 3 happens, part 3 quote unquote happens, we will get a fight that changes this to a solid 7, maybe even higher. But I can't imagine you think that all of these delays and things to do are healthy, especially here on Global, where we don't have 3 of the hardest fights in the game, period. Of course, I'm willing to be wrong. Maybe they're just storing up a lot of things for part 3, and that'd be sick. That would be sick. I mean, that's the thing about conversations like this, is I don't care if I'm right. I would just want shit to do. I feel like people don't get that. I just want the game to be good. I don't really care if I'm like, I have to stick by my point. I hope this shit bangs in part 3, but for now, it is what it is, man. All of that Dragon Ball is infallible, Dragon Ball can do no wrong, Dragon Ball is a GOAT, all that shit flew out the window when I was 14, man. I'm not gonna sit here and let Toei and Akatsuki and Shueisha and all these companies get away with just being lazy about this IP. Sorry. But if you like this video, subscribe to join the club, like if you liked it. I've been long. We on. You gonna make it. I'm gonna make it, hopefully. I hope I'm gonna make it. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.